All right, so I'm sharing on my screen. Hopefully you can see it. We're going to roll through this and we'll try to keep on track. And a few things I wanted to touch base on at the beginning. So when it comes to being a director of admissions or a director of marketing or just a sales manager or manager in general, there's a couple key numbers we like to share. And I threw just a handful of them up here as just an intro, but 82% of managers don't have time to train their people. That's one I know Lex and I have focused on many times working with different people as well in schools, is you don't have the time. You're so busy on, 32% of managers, our time is spent on desk-based activities. That, to me, that even seems low. I remember back being a director of admissions and trying to just find time to do training and work with the team becomes difficult because you're hamstrung with all kinds of different things that you have to do. I've got to report to the president or the campus director. I've got to create reports. I've got to put out fires. I have to deal with financial aid issues. I have to deal with other types of issues. I have personnel issues to deal with. There's all kinds of things that come up that can get in your way. And the biggest thing that really hamstrung me as a manager is just being stuck at the desk all day. And it's really where you have to make a conscious effort. And we'll talk about that as well. Also, 14% of managers' time is spent with reps or customers, and that's it. So 86% of the time, whatever you're doing is not directly related to working with your own team or your prospects, your explorers, your students, or anybody else that you're working with. So it's a very small portion of time is actually spent with your team. And then lastly, 23% or a quarter of your time is really just spent on admin activities, which I alluded to, those desk-based activities as well. And our goal as a director of admissions is to really break out of that funk and move into being more active as a trainer and engaging your team. And we're going to talk about that. So before I have Lex and Scott jump in, I want to pop this one up there and then I'll let them jump in a bit here. But really, when it comes down to it, the role of a manager is not to grow sales. The role of a manager or a sales manager is to grow your people. And the three key roles really of a sales manager or director of admissions would be, number one, as a people manager. That's recruiting, that's building and coaching your team. That's the number one function above all else, is building that team, recruiting that team. Number two is to be a resource provider, giving your people the resources they need to be able to exceed the goals that you've set, that they've set.
Yeah, that's achieved. I told her.
Okay. And making sure, and Suzanne, you can monitor group two. So if everybody's not muted, if you want to either mute yourself or Suzanne, you can try to play the whack-a-mole game. So whoever's, where we have some noise, we can mute. But giving your team those resources, that's having a great CRM, that's having a great platform in which to present, that's having headsets, that's having microphones, that's having great cameras, that's having green screens for virtual. All of the things that are needed, that's having a room or a spot that you can actually present. Those are the keys to a manager. I have to give my team everything that they need to excel and be successful out there. And then lastly, my role as a sales manager is the business part of the things. That's planning, it's adjusting. What happens when things are going sideways? What happens when things are going well? How do I adjust to the plan? How do I put together a budget and a plan? What reports do I need to generate? How quickly can I get to those reports, get those out so I can move back to number one, being a people manager? And then the last piece there of being a business manager is achieving or exceeding those goals you set for themselves. So Lex, I'll first ask, I'll throw it at you. Does this make sense for what we put together here?
Yeah, it absolutely does. And what's so backwards is that when you say 82% of managers don't have time to train their people, a lot of people have asked us at the Art of Admissions, well, how do we change that? And the bottom line is it's never about time management. It's about priority management. And that's the key. What are your priorities? Your majority of time has got to be on developing your people daily, not just weekly, not just quarterly. So being really clear with your priorities that, am I going to grow my people or am I going to stay stuck in the weeds with admin stuff? And I was a DOA as well. I was a rep. I know all the crazy admin stuff that's going on. Ashley's talking now. That's going on. So shift your priorities to make the number one priority to train people daily.
Absolutely. Scott, anything to add?
Well, I was just sitting through this, but yeah, you know, I have to agree with you. I work for I've worked for many schools, large corporations where literally 3 hours a day we were on corporate conference calls. Another hour a day was spent on reports. On Fridays, 2-3 hours on reports, trying to reconcile every single lead. It was ridiculous. It really, really was. No time to really train and monitor your people. And again, the only way you're going to grow your sales is to grow your people, coaching and training. And by coaching, I don't mean once a week at the meetings. It's every single day, even if it's for 10, 15, 20 minutes a day, touching base with them in the morning, seeing what's going on, what happened with their interviews the day before. I know I can go on and on and on with it. I won't, because we only have about 20 minutes, but yeah, growing your people, grow sales.
Sounds good. So what I'm going to give you here, and again, if you want this presentation, we will make it available for you. You can also email me at tom@enrollmentresources.com, and I will email you a copy of this as well. So we'll send this out to you. But the 10 keys, now we're only going to cover 5 of these today, but these are the 10 keys that we coach to. And number 1 is knowing your KPIs. And what are KPIs? Those are your key performance indicators. Those are your metrics. Do you know your numbers? And do you know your numbers without having to say, you know, hold on, let me see, let me run a report, let me pull that up. A good DOA has their numbers handy at their fingertips 24/7. So you know your numbers, you can pull those out of reports quickly, you can put them into something that's coherent for yourself to be able to manage, and you have a firm grasp of your KPIs. The second piece is ensuring a sales structure and process are in place. So do you have a sales structure and a sales process? Or do you just, when I ask those questions of you when we're doing consulting work or working with schools, well, we really don't have a script. We really don't have a plan. We kind of have a guideline, or you know what? No, my people are veterans. They just do their thing. Your goal is to have a sales structure and a process in place. I don't care if you've got reps that have been around for 20 or 25 years. Those people, to me, need more structure than anybody. So the more veteran your reps, the more structure they have a tendency to need, because they have a tendency to become cowboys, just doing their own thing out there. And those are the ones that can potentially get you into trouble. And even as a rep, I want structure. I want a process. I want something that's going to allow me to become successful. So having that sales structure and that process. Number 3 is having a starts plan. Understanding what is a starts plan? What's your goal? What's your enrollment plan? What's your start plan? And then you can work backwards into what's our appointment setting plan? What's our budget? Having all of that information. But we want to make sure that you have a plan for starts and enrollments. And those are 2 completely different things. So what are your starts? What are your enrollments? And we're going to talk more about this in a few minutes. Having a weekly rep report so that your reps know their numbers. So this is a report that your reps actually fill out. Yeah, no, but we have a CRM. All of our numbers are in a CRM. I don't care, because most of your reps don't know how to pull anything out of a CRM. They don't know how to run reports, and they don't know their own numbers. If I ask, how many appointments did you have last week? I don't know. How many of those showed? I'm not really sure. How many of those did you enroll? I don't really know. The reps should know their numbers. And one thing that we suggest is having maybe a Google Doc or something like that. Even though you have this great CRM that you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on, nothing is better than having a simple Google Doc And we can share some of that with you. I don't know that we'll have time today, but every day it takes 1 minute, 2 minutes at the end of the day for each rep to put in how many calls, how many texts, how many appointments did I set, how many of those showed, how many of those did I interview, how many of those enrolled, how many referrals did I get, and just jotting those numbers down on a daily basis. So at the end of the week, they are self-reporting as well. And what that does is that brings it to the forefront of what your numbers are, and it keeps those in front of you, because we are salespeople. I think that sometimes gets lost in the shuffle, that admissions is a sales profession. And a lot of people think, oh no, we're just consultants. We're motivational career speakers. No, you are salespeople. You're just selling education. And we still are accountable for knowing our numbers and improving ourselves. Number 5 on here is you having a rep report summary that tracks all those KPIs. So once I have all of, as a manager, I want to know where each of my reps are, what their numbers are, so that I can plan for how I'm going to coach and improve that individual. And we're going to talk more about this one specifically. Number 6, a starts planning and adjustment tool. What that is something we're going to talk about a little bit more here too, but that's having a tool that every week I'm going to adjust the work needed to hit my start goal for the next start. So based upon how many enrollments I already have on the books, how many enrollments I still need to hit my goal, I want to adjust exactly what my reps need to do, how many calls, how many appointments, how many applications they're going to need to hit the start goal, and I'm going to adjust it every single week. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Number 7, ensuring the use of a script and A/B testing them. If you don't have a script, you need a script. You need to have something in place for your people to have a solid, clear roadmap so that they can know from which way to work. People not only need to know what to say, but they need to know when to say it, and then hopefully you can coach them on how to say it. But it's absolutely key to have a script. There is no major sales organization on this planet that does not have a script. Every major organization in the world that's a sales-based organization has scripts for their team, except for admissions. For some reason, we just let our team just do whatever the heck they want to, and they'll say whatever. So we want to have at least a script. It's not everything that they say, but we want to have a roadmap for them. We want to hold daily and weekly sales meetings. We're going to talk about that. We also want you to be a coach. What do we do? How do we improve them? How do we do their reviews? What are we meeting with daily? What are we meeting them with weekly? And then lastly, you want to audit your team. Sometimes it's mystery shopping from an outside source, sometimes from an inside source. Post-tour surveys of your students, but audit your team so that you have a strong idea and understand exactly how they are performing and how you can understand that from an outside perspective. So let's jump into the top 5, and then we'll, over the next 15 minutes or so, we're going to talk about a couple minutes on each one of these, and we'll keep it quick. But top 5, know your KPIs, number 1. Number 2, having a rep report that allows your reps to know their numbers. 3, having a starts planning and adjustment tool to ensure that their activities are on track and you know where to go. Holding those daily and weekly meetings, and then being a coach. So these are the 5 we'll spend some time with here. And Lex, do you want to take a moment and just run through the top 6 metrics?
Absolutely.
For admissions, the KPIs.
So, yep. And to underline again, most reps don't know their numbers. They're even more important for the reps to know where they stand, because you can't get to where you want to go with them unless you know where they are and unless they know where they are. So number 1, they need to know their lead to contact rate. What's the contact rate? Is it 20%? Is it 60%? And that's a strategy piece, is if your reps are not contacting as many students as possible, they don't have enough people to be able to do their appointment setting goal. And next, what's their appointment to a tour rate? What's the show rate? And when you look at every single moving part of these KPIs, you know exactly on a weekly, monthly, quarterly basis what you need to focus on with your specific reps. Where do they need help on? Contact rate, show rate. And the next is the application rate. And I'm sorry, appointment to contact to appointment would be one there. What's the contact to appointment rate? And then what's the show rate? How many people are showing up? And all of you should be doing virtual now. So ideally, the show rate is super high. And then, of course, what's the application rate from people who are attending their virtual appointment? And then what's their enrollment or packaging rate? And then lastly, what's the start rate? And every one of those is a moving part that has to be tracked daily so that you can look at it, whether it's weekly, monthly, quarterly, et cetera. Because you can't get to where you want to go unless you know where the challenges are, the training challenges that will help your team to get better.
Yep, fantastic. So these are the 6 pieces. These are the 6 pieces that you need to track, that your CRM needs to be able to easily pull for you. You need to know these 6 keys. Once you know these 6 keys, you need to know them by rep, by campus, and then overall, because this will give you all the info you need to figure out, where's my team falling down? Where are they short? What do I need to work on? So if you understand these 6 key KPIs of admissions, you'll understand exactly how to coach your team, work your team, and you'll know where you're not meeting best practices. So another key here, one of the top 5, is a weekly rep report, or understanding and monitoring those KPIs for your team. So we take those 6 KPIs now, and I want to be able to scan and look at those on a spreadsheet or something. I want to be able to update a sheet with those stats for each rep so that I can see exactly how they're doing and exactly how they're performing. I'll give you a sample of what this looks like in just a minute. And you're updating those sheets every week with your team's info, or if you can pull this out of your CRM. I just haven't found CRMs that are able to do this well. You can usually get your numbers out, but you have to be able to put it into some kind of a spreadsheet or something. And then aggregating the data by reps to see how they stack up and how they combine. And again, I know we have a very short time window here, so I'm just going to give you a quick sense of what this particular report would look like. So bear with me as I share this. So here's a sense of what we would be using for a rep report on a weekly basis. So for each week ending here, CP means company produced. How many leads did that rep get? PD is personally developed. How many leads did they generate on their own? How many calls, texts, or emails did they make for the week? How many phone conversations did they actually hold with people? How many appointments did they set with people? How many of those appointments actually showed? How many of those appointments that showed did we get an application from? And then if your apps are different from your enrolls, how many of those people actually then made it through the process, enrolled, and potentially started? I'm going to ignore the points here. That's a whole nother conversation for another day when we have more time. But understanding each one of these, so each week, it's real simple. I only need to know my 6 KPIs by each rep. And then I've got one master sheet that's going to tell me that for each rep, where are we? So if 60% is my contact rate, which reps are below 60%? So rep number 2 here, they're struggling with contact rate. I know what to work with that rep on. Rep number 1 is meeting our goal. Rep number 2 is a little behind. So maybe these 2 reps, I need to work on contact strategies. Are they sending enough text via emails? Are they using video email? Same thing with appointment setting. Do they have appointment setting? Are they struggling? And all 3 of these reps are struggling. Instead of setting 85% virtual appointments, they're only setting 50, 60, 35% of their people they talk to appointment setting. Well, there's my coaching. As a team, I'm at 48%. I know what I need to work on. Same thing with appointment show rates. Who's not hitting our show rate? What do I need to work on? Now, this team seems like they need a lot of help. So, what are my application rates? So right now, I would probably just replace all these reps anyway, but and save myself the headache. There's a lot of work here with this team that needs to be done. But where's the critical pieces that you need to work at? So having something that tracks all the different KPIs by rep and potentially separates it by campus, what are the goals, and then highlighting who's falling back and allowing me the opportunity to figure out exactly who do I need to work with and what do I need to work with them on. I'm going to keep going quickly because I know we've got a short period of time and we probably have way too many things to cover for you. The next piece here is a starts planning and adjustment tool. So this tool is designed to allow you to adjust weekly on how things go. And I'm going to walk through it briefly and give you a sense of how it works. But what is your student goal, number one? So and you would have one of these different adjustment sheets for each start date that you have. So let's say my start goal is 25. So I would put 25 in here. So I have a start goal of 25. How many applications do I need to start 25 students? And this is where you would take your start goal of 25 and divide it by your start rate. Do you have a 90% start rate of people that apply? Do you have a 70%? What is your start rate? If your start rate is, let's say it's 90%. So 25 divided by 90% means I need 28. So I need 28 applications here. I need 28 applications to start 90% of those. I'll start 25 students. How many applications are still needed? So let's say we still have 4 weeks to go. And how many apps do I have on hand? Well, I need 28, but I've already got 20. I need 8 more applications in 3 weeks. I'm just making up some numbers. So I need 8 applications in 3 weeks. So how many interviews do I need? So what is my close rate? Let's assume your close rate, and I know I'm going quickly through this, but if your closing rate is 70%, so if I'm closing 70% of my interviews, how many interviews do I need to get 8 applications? Well, you take 8 applications divided by the 70% that you have here, which is 11. So I need 11 interviews to get 8 more applications. Everybody with me so far? Sound good? Still a little nod, just make sure you're still awake. And then how many interviews do you need to show per week? So because I needed 11 more interviews and I have, let's just say we had 3 weeks to go. So you take your 11 divided by 3. Okay, I need 4 interviews a week. So I need 4 interviews a week. And then how many appointments do I need to set to get 4 interviews a week? Understanding what my current show rate is on appointments. If 80% of your appointments are showing and I need 4, I take my 4 divided by the 80%. That means I need 5 appointments set each week so that 4 will show up each week. So over 3 weeks, I'm going to get 11 or 12, and then I'll have 8 applications and I'll meet my goal. Every week, I'm going to readjust based upon, I had a good week last week, a bad week, what are my totals? So that my team now has a goal. So this is how we can assign goals and make sure that they have goals each week. Lex, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about just how do we structure, I know we've got about 5 minutes left, but quickly, how do we structure daily and weekly meetings now with our team, now that we know what has to be accomplished?
Right. This is one of the most critical things. I mean, there's so many takeaways from this 30 minutes, but this is like one of the number one. And you have got to create time as priority management to make sure your team is training daily. And if you're an admissions rep, ask your DOA or the director to make this happen. And you don't learn like this. You're exposed to information like this in a webinar or a weekly training. The learning occurs during the daily meetings and the daily practice and role plays. So number one, you got to review the numbers. You got to know where things are for the week so far on an individual basis as well as a team basis, and review success stories. Start with the positive. What are your reps doing well? Who's someone who they inspired to take action, either to show up for a tour, presentation, or who applied, enrolled, or started? And everyone should take note of those success stories and use them in their presentations. It's a great time to really bring those success stories together. Then discuss specific training on an area of focus. And the numbers tell everything. And your reps also may have some specifics. Hey, there's an objection. I just don't know how to address this objection. I get it, and I fluff my way all the time. And then practice and role play as if it's real. That's one of the critical elements. Don't practice and role play just going through the motions. It doesn't have to be the whole script. It could be a small portion of your phone script or a small portion of your virtual presentation script. And the admissions reps should get 3 celebrations. What are they doing well? 3 optimizations. What can they do better? And then you have your weekly meeting, which is about 30 minutes. And by the way, the daily meeting, 20 minutes minimum. 30 minutes is better. And weekly meetings, 30 minutes, review the numbers, set the goals for the following week, and also invite other departments in. So that financial aid is working wonderfully with admissions and student services and placement and so forth. Super important everyone not just gets along, but really knows what each other is doing and how to improve the relationship between the departments.
Yeah, fantastic. So and one of the questions earlier was, well, what about community colleges or potentially traditional colleges versus for-profit or proprietary colleges? This is the same for everybody. This is the same for every department in your school. You need to have metrics that you're tracking. Your staff needs to understand their metrics. You need to be able to adjust and let them know what they should be working on each week. And then lastly here, it's the most important piece is you should be training them 15 minutes to 20 minutes every day, as Lex just said, and you know exactly where to train them on what areas that they're struggling, because we were able to identify that. So you know exactly where to be. We got about 2 minutes left. So I know we don't have a lot of time for questions. Just understand the areas to coach on for your team, the technical areas. How well do they do what's required? Do you onboard new people? Do you improve their skill sets daily? On the tactical side, did they have a process? And we can help you with all of those things, but you need to have a process and a script for them to follow. Otherwise, how do you train them? And how do you work with them as a group when everybody is doing something different? And how do you split test something when no one's doing the same thing? So if you want to try to make an improvement, how do you make an improvement when nobody's doing the same thing? You can't. Everybody has to have the same basic roadmap. And then the mental and physical aspect of things. Can they communicate well? Do they follow processes? Can they learn? And you're there to help provide encouragement and motivation for them to keep going, even when they make 20, 40, 50 phone calls and nobody answers, when nobody enrolls out of the last 6 meetings. Well, what is it that they're doing wrong? And you'll know that if you've got some great people, they're going to reach out and ask for help as well. So you'll know when you hired some fantastic reps, when they actually come to you with, I'm frustrated, I'm struggling with this, how do you help me? But if you're coaching and spending the time with them, hopefully they don't get to that point, but we want people that are open to coaching and willing to learn and take that on.